Story 1. Absolutely everyone that doesn't work inside. Don't get me wrong, a number of inside jobs are vital as well. But the vast majority of outdoor blue-collar jobs are what keep everything operating. Story 2. Another Ask thread where people ignore part of the question. Every comment I've seen lists various types of either unskilled or highly manual blue-collar work, where it's obvious to everyone we absolutely need them, even if we treat them poorly. For me, I'm going with the profession keeping a number of aged, wizened old IT programmers employed, COBOL software engineer. Most of the public wouldn't know COBOL if their house was wallpapered in the stuff. But this basically dead computer language is holding up a shocking amount of the financial sector. Even the most ardent anti-capitalists would agree a huge global financial crash caused by a lack of COBOL engineers to support the ancient mainframes finance still runs on would be absolutely catastrophic to the world. Story 3. Social workers. Do not get me wrong, some do not do their jobs, but millions of children are saved by their assessments, and childhood trauma is the foundation of every issue we have in this world. Story 4. Civil engineers. I always say we're the world's stay-at-home mom. Nobody quite knows what we do for a living, but when we get underfunded, often because our work involves things that are forgettable to the average person, and things don't get done, very important things fall apart, and people get very angry about that. Story 5. Construction workers are so critical to everything we do now. I worked in construction for 6 months and learned more in those 6 months than I thought possible. It is amazing how much of our buildings are aligned and placed based on a handful of yarn. Story 6. Machinist, woodworker, metal worker, assembly workers. Without all of these, anything you buy would not be available. Shout out also to truckers and farmers. Story 7. Your veterinarian surgery is very complex. And I get the feeling a lot of people think because they're animals it's just simple. But it is not simple. I've aided in some very hairy, pun intended surgeries, and it's crazy the amount of disrespect we've received from clients over the pettiest things. Please listen to the doctor. They know what they are doing. Story 8. Essentially, all the jobs that pay too little so the rest of you can sit in a comfortable seat in an air-conditioned office and not have to worry about where the after-lunch waste goes once it's flushed down the toilet. Story 9. All cleaning jobs. Nearly everyone overlooks them, but they will be missed within minutes. Graveyard workers and everything regarding handling deceased people or animals. Plumbers, as many have already mentioned. Story 10. What if I told you it's the cashier at the hardware store? Someone has got to sell that wood to the carpenters, pipes to the plumber, and bags of concrete to the mason. Story 11. Food distribution. From warehouse workers to delivery drivers to shelf stockers, I've worked it. It is one of the most thankless, dead-end professions on earth, yet it's easily the most necessary. Because what would happen if the supply chain shut down? We can't all go farm or hunt for our food. Millions would starve. Cities would burn down. Story 12. My friend was telling me about her job, which involves filling in an old mine. Without it being filled in, most of the town above it would likely succumb to sinkholes within the next 20 years. It makes you think. Story 13. I work in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning controls. Many people don't know that there is a job where every large building requires someone to write a custom computer program to run their heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. And that, most of the time, the absolute wrong person to call for fixing something in the building is a local heating, ventilation, and air conditioning company. Story 14. Sanitation workers, hands down. We rarely think about them, but without them, cities would be drowning in garbage, and disease would spread so fast. They keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes, and most of us do not even realize how crucial their work is until something goes wrong. Story 15. Professional movers of any kind. Go back and watch any old movie and you'll see some, at least as background characters, and they look pretty much the same as they do today. Just two guys that show up, know how to lift some heavy items up and down stairs, and make that part of life a lot easier for the rest of us. Story 16. I would say the people who maintain our internet infrastructure are essential. We rely on the internet for pretty much everything, from work to entertainment, but we hardly ever think about the technicians and engineers who keep it all running smoothly. Imagine living without Google Maps. Story 17. Inventory management specialists work behind the scenes to ensure supply chains run smoothly and that stock levels are maintained for just about every product we use. Without them, stores and warehouses would be chaotic, shortages would be rampant, and it would be impossible to find what we need when we need it. They are the unsung heroes of retail and product availability, deserving much more recognition for keeping our shelves stocked and our purchases flowing seamlessly from click to delivery. Story 18. Pretty much all blue-collar workers, the world doesn't run without us. And many people don't realize just how badly society would crumble if we all stopped working. Story 19. I may get flack, but a lot of your financial professionals. The world runs on food and logistics, and finance is like the fluid that allows those to run smoothly. Story 20. Geospatial workers are involved in mapping roads, parcels, ocean depths, and shipping channels. Every time someone has to go somewhere, they are using geospatial data. This includes logistics, trucking, public safety, and all aspects related to geographic information systems. Story 21. Truckers. Yes, we are the biggest things on the road, and sometimes the slowest, but everything would come to a stop without us. Everything. Oxygen at hospitals, building materials, food, clothing, fuel. I never get any kind of recognition from anyone but other truckers unless someone screws up and there's an accident. You never see viral news stories about how drivers rescue people in trafficking situations, or you never realize how close you come to crashing into the truck when you make an exit sweep on the highway. Trucking is classified as unskilled labor, vastly underpaid and underappreciated. I spend sometimes 2 months away from my children in the original tiny home because someone likes chicken strips. Story 22. A lot of great answers, so I'm going to throw in one I haven't seen yet. Artists. I think a lot of people take for granted how much art they really consume every day, from movies and TV shows to music, to even just decorations and embellishments that make their living spaces more interesting. Without artists, gone would be all the entertainment we consume, all the fancy desserts and foods. The culinary arts is an art form after all. Without photographers, we wouldn't get our wedding photos and special events captured. No more comic books, paintings, or drawings. Everything would be gray and dull and soullessly manufactured. Story 23. Accountants make the world go round because money makes the world go round. Accountants tell businesses what they can and cannot afford, how and when to apply their current resources, and where to find new ones. All those critical jobs would not exist without an accountant in the back, crunching numbers and saying, "Hey boss, you spent $50,000 last week, and you only have $10,000 left. Maybe charge our clients more." Story 24. I think almost any traditional job that isn't like a social media influencer would change life as we know it if it didn't exist. Construction worker, janitor, teacher, engineer of any kind, delivery driver, factory worker, police officer, firefighter, etc. Story 25. Funeral directors. The industry was severely affected during COVID-19, and people are not pursuing education in it, so it's becoming a declining industry, I believe. There aren't enough new professionals entering the field to replace the workers who are retiring. Story 26. I will add this. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, also known as HVAC and refrigeration. Aside from the typical furnace and air conditioning applications, there are some other lesser-known ones. Data centers full of critical information. HVAC is needed to prevent overheating. Oil field work. Refrigeration is needed. Anything involving produce, meat, or frozen foods. Refrigeration is necessary. Story 27. Refrigeration technicians, certainly heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC, would be an inconvenience. But in modern society, refrigeration has a much bigger impact. All that milk produced daily is kept cold because of refrigeration. We'd have to go back to preserving food without freezing it or keeping it cold without the refrigeration technicians. Story 28. Utilities operators. Yes, it's annoying when the power goes out unexpectedly or the water gets shut off because something broke across the street. However, the fact that we have these services available around the clock relies on an army of individuals constantly maintaining vast networks of infrastructure. Story 29. Agree on most blue-collar jobs, but plumbers and electricians are at the top. When plumbing isn't working, you find out your wife's most important needs. Story 30. It would be really difficult to live without professions like sanitation workers or waste management professionals. They keep our environments clean and safe, but their crucial work often goes unnoticed until we face sanitation issues. Story 31. Prepares for a downvote deluge. Parking enforcement officers. Everyone dislikes them, but they make parking possible. Some are unpleasant, but that's true of every profession. Every major artery in every major city would grind to a halt with quadruple parked individuals saying, "Just a minute," as they head into a theater to watch a movie. Story 32. Prostitutes are genuinely performing a vital service by mitigating some of the worst behaviors exhibited by those who are involuntarily celibate. They are present even in the most restrictive societies where their profession is deemed illegal. Despite fulfilling an essential role in society, they often face disdain and harsh judgment without any recognition of what society might look like without these dedicated and compassionate individuals. Story 33. Food workers, customer service jobs, healthcare workers and providers, teachers, drivers. I think most jobs, except maybe influencers, are needed for a functional society. Story 34. As a cement mixer driver, probably me, want to build anything? You are going to need concrete. I didn't even think about it before I got this job. I had no idea how many things use concrete and mixer trucks to get it from point A to point B. Doing a house foundation with bags of cement, you are going to have a bad time. Now look at skyscrapers. It is an essential business I was barely even aware of for a quarter of a century. Story 35. Machinists. The vast majority of people don't even know we exist. And of those who do, only a portion actually understand what we do. Every piece of technology that humanity has taken advantage of for the last 150 or so years was either made by a machinist or made on machines that were made by machinists. Story 36. The entire electrical utility system is pretty much invisible to us when it's working, which it is the vast majority of the time, at least around here. But when a storm comes by and the power is off for a couple of hours, people suddenly start to lose it. Story 37. You all are just naming professions that society doesn't hold in high status. That is not the question. We're looking for extremely obscure but critical professions. Story 38. Futures traders play a surprisingly important role in modern industry. This is something most people don't realize. But many industries don't manufacture products based solely on end consumer demand. Instead, they often produce a pre-agreed amount of goods because someone has already purchased them at a specific price through futures contracts. These producers aren't overly concerned with finding buyers or accounting for market volatility, since they know that if they produce a certain amount of aluminum or potatoes, they will get paid a predetermined price for it, regardless of current demand. This allows them to establish processes that enable consistent production, knowing that market fluctuations won't cripple their business. Without this layer of stability, large-scale production would be far too unstable to reliably supply the global market with the myriad products that go into everyday items. Story 39. Honestly, civil engineers and construction workers, no matter what industry, you need infrastructure to get it done. Whether that be a building, a bridge, a road, or a port. Story 40. I got a super unpopular one. Banker. Now before you start yelling at me, name 5 objects around you right now that were not, in one way or another, financed by a bank at one point in its production or transport to you. Story 41. Industrial screw and nail manufacturing factories. Seriously. Lots, if not most, structures need screws and nails, otherwise the whole thing falls like Jenga. Story 42. Teachers. Unfortunately, we are likely to see the results in the next few years as more and more teachers quit and fewer start each year. Without them, kids don't learn structure, organization, professionalism, subjects in general, life skills. Parents wouldn't be able to work because with no teachers, there'd be no schools, so their kids would be at home 24/7. It would cripple the economy and drastically affect future generations. Story 43. Anyone who works on the grid, from residential construction and road workers to plant and site workers to linemen to the grid monitoring team. Story 44. In addition to all the above, customer service representatives, Everybody gives them so much negativity, but they always seem to be happy helping people. All you need to do is be a decent human being when you call, and they go above and beyond to help you. Story 45. Garbage men. The unsung heroes of your city. The smell and rot that would happen if we didn't have these guys. 2 weeks, 2 trash rotations not being picked up, tops, and people would be in trouble. Story 46. Plumbing, electricity, construction, farming, ranching, food service. Say what you want about that last one. Most people eat enough takeout and restaurant food for life to get exponentially harder without it. Consider anything you use in your daily life, then imagine erasing the people that do it so you don't have to. Story 47. Philosophers have contributed a lot of insights in fields like mathematics and sciences as a result of philosophical inquiries regarding the epistemological and ontological approaches to fields such as mathematics and science. These inquiries have had a very palpable effect on shaping the modern world, influencing technology, and enhancing our scientific understanding. For example, if Aristotle hadn't philosophized about logical reasoning and gone on to develop formal logic, it's unlikely that Euclid would have published Elements. This publication was key in getting people to take mathematics seriously. Without it, the discovery over 2,000 years later that the parallel postulate in Euclid's Elements does not apply to non-Euclidean geometry might never have happened. This revelation spurred on the foundational crisis of mathematics, leading to attempts by mathematicians to axiomatize all of mathematics. This effort, in turn, led to logician Kurt Gödel proving that it's not possible to do so with his incompleteness theorems, which directly inspired Alan Turing to invent the modern computer. If it weren't for Aristotle's philosophizing thousands of years ago, there's a chance we might still be living in the medieval ages today.